Hello and welcome to this virtual session. We're glad you can join us today. Before we get started, there's a few housekeeping items we'd like to go over with you now. Firstly, you can resize the webinar windows to cater to your viewing preferences. You can maximise, minimise and drag the windows to your preferred viewing size. If you look at the bottom middle of your screen, you can click on the widgets that you'll need to get the most out of this virtual experience. Secondly, Microsoft specialists are on hand to answer your questions in real time. So feel free to type in your questions using the Q&A window and we'll answer them as soon as we can. Lastly, we've provided some additional resources for you to supplement your learning. You can access them by clicking on the links in this section. Without further ado, I'll hand over to our speakers.
Hello and welcome back to our virtual training day for the second part of Microsoft Dynamics 365 Enterprise Resource Planning course. My name is Monique O'Reilly and I'm your Microsoft Technical Trainer, and I am so happy that you're here for part 2. In our first session, we covered the basics of Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations apps, including reporting capabilities, the Finance app, as well as the Supply Chain Management app. In today's session, we're going to be exploring 3 other areas inside of Dynamics 365 ERP apps, being the Commerce, Human Resources, and Project Operations apps. Before we dive in, I just want to remind you to bookmark the Microsoft Learning Path that corresponds to this course, which can be found at aka.ms/MB-920. So between attending this virtual training day and studying the Learn Path, you will have everything you need to prepare for the exam. Anyway, let's get started with Module 4 and take a look at the Commerce module within Dynamics 365. There are 2 lessons, the first having its focus on channel management, distributed order management, and how you can set up product assortments. The second lesson looks at how you can leverage the software to provide personalised and targeted shopping experiences in both business to business and business to customer business models. So there is a lot to cover. Let's get started and talk about what this Commerce app is all about. The main thing that comes to mind for me when I think of Dynamics 365 Commerce is that it's omni-channel. And what I mean by omni-channel is that it's designed to create a seamless shopping experience for customers across all channels. So it's unifying the back office, the in-store shops, call centers, and digital experiences on a single platform. And if we take a look at this visual diagram on the right of the slide here, we can see those arrows that are pointing in a clockwise direction. And if we start at the 12 o'clock position, we have purchase with a call center, e-commerce, and the physical store. Then if we move to the right, we see post-purchase functionality like loyalty programs, customer service. And if you move in one layer towards the middle, you'll see half the diagram is devoted to the functions supporting customers, and the other half is showing functions associated with operations. So the takeaway from this is to show that Dynamics 365 Commerce is really great insofar as covering in so many different functions in the one place. Next, I want to talk about the channels. And let's think about this from the perspective of your last online shopping experience, whenever that was. Let's say you're browsing online and you came across a great online shop. Maybe you found a product you really liked. It could be a really nice t-shirt, and you might see, oh, it's not available in my size. Then you can sometimes check and type in your suburb or postcode to see, okay, if it's available in this store that's half an hour drive away, this isn't ideal, or maybe I can do better. So then you can go and contact their support number and see if you waited a week, or see as to whether it would be back available online in your size relatively soon. So across that customer experience of shopping online, you're actually interacting with 3 different channels, being the bricks and mortar store, the online channel being the e-commerce storefront, and also the call center. And across those channels, it's so important for there to be a single source of truth of what products are available. What's the inventory level? When will the next stock delivery be? When will it be available for customers to buy? And so on. And Dynamics 365 Commerce is so helpful in this respect. Now, if we take a closer look at the brick and mortar store channel, being the physical shop, there is a store commerce app for frontline workers that is super useful. So your retail staff, like your cashiers, store managers, and the workers who stock the shelves or racks, can access this software to help them do their job. It can work on a web browser, Windows, Android, and iOS. So you can put it easily on a tablet and they can take it with them while moving around the shop. Each staff member would have their own levels of permissions by way of being assigned a role in the system. So you can ensure that every staff member has the level of access they need to do their work. Next, I want to talk about distributed order management. So we have already touched on the fact that it is an omni-channel environment. The sales order can be created in-store, online, or even through the call centre. And all these orders are fed into the Order Management System, or OMS. Where distributed order management, or DOM for short, fits into that picture is that it helps ensure that the orders are fulfilled accurately and in the most cost-effective manner. The way in which this is achieved by DOM is that it's factoring in cost components like shipping cost, handling cost, and packaging, as well as any business rules that you have as a customer defined in the system, as well as insights generated by AI, and then is able to determine the best fulfillment location, ensuring that they're fulfilled accurately and in the most cost-effective manner, which ultimately drives the best customer experience possible. If you look at the right side of the slide, it shows the sales order life cycle in the context of DOM. So as I mentioned, you can have a variety of order sources, which feeds into the order management system, and then DOM handles the fulfillment so that it's done in the most optimal way. Now, we have spoken a lot about orders. Let's now focus on the pricing and discount management component. In the system, you're going to have a product price for each of your products. We can see here in the top left of the slide that this is managed in 3 places, namely directly on the product, in the trade agreement, or in the price adjustment, also known as a price discount. With the second place I mentioned being the trade agreement, note that you can actually manage that through the supply chain management app, but can be used for orders created through the commerce app. It just means you're managing it in a different spot to the commerce app, but it's still used anyway. There is also the ability to use different discount types, and we can see them listed in the grey square on the left of the slide here. First up, we have simple, which is a single percentage like 20% off. We have quantity, which is where it's buy 2 items and get 30% off. We also have mix and match, where you can specify that when a specific combination of items like 1 t-shirt and 1 pair of shorts is purchased, you get a discount. There is also threshold, where if you spend over $200, there is a discount. There is tender-based, where you get a discount based on what payment type you use. And finally, shipping, which is where you have a discount applied to a specific mode of delivery. Now, let's talk about product assortments and cover what they are, and then shortly I'll be showing you how they work in action with a demo. So product assortments are used to define which products are available to sell in which channels, be it in the physical store, the online e-commerce store, or the call centre, and during which times. So in simple terms, you group products together and you can say that you want this group of products to be available in the city store and this other group of products to be available in another store. And you choose the time period you want this to take place over. And remember that groups of products are being referred to here as product assortments. And we can see some basic ways you can set up product assortments in the diagrams on the slide. We do have a demo coming up to cover this, and so you'll see more context around this very shortly. Now let's add on to this product assortment discussion by introducing some other features that you can use with these. We have organisational hierarchies, which are useful if you want the product assortment to be shared by all channels in a particular organisational unit. So if we take a look at the slide at the box in the top left, we have assortment 1 linking an org unit, and then stores 1 and 2 will have assortment 1 applied. So with the org unit, all channels in that node and its child channels will be included too. Then we have product categories, and this is where you can group products into a product category. So if we take a look at the box on the top right of the slide, we will see that products 1 and 2 are part of category 1. And so assortment 1 will include these products in that category node as well as its child nodes. Finally, we have excluded products or categories, which allows you to exclude certain products and categories from product assortments. And there is an example in the slide down the bottom, and what that diagram is saying is that if you want product assortment 1 to include all products from category 1 except product 2, we need to define product 2 to be excluded, which is ultimately a great feature, saving us from having to create a whole separate category where product 2 is excluded. And what I think would be a really great idea right now is to jump into Dynamics 365 so I can show you how this works.
Okay, so I've logged into Dynamics 365. The first thing I'm going to do is check I'm in the correct legal entity, which says USMF up the top, which is great. And now I'm ready to go create a product assortment. So I'm going to go to the hamburger menu and go and find Retail and Commerce module. Where is it? Here it is, Retail and Commerce. And I'm going to select Catalog and Assortments, expand that out, and I can see Assortments. Now these are some product assortments that I've already created, but right now I'm going to create a new one. So I'm going to go click New in the ribbon up the top here. And I've got New Record and I'm ready to fill in the details. So the first thing I'm going to do is set an effective date for this product assortment, and I'm going to set that in the future. I'm going to give it a name, perhaps Spring Summer Collection, and an expiration date, which is going to be set to never. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to collapse that now. And let's take a look at the commerce channels. I would like to add some channels here. So I'm going to click Add Line, and I can see a drop down. So I'm going to select the organization hierarchy as retail stores by type. And I'm interested in having them all and also online. I'm going to use that arrow to bring it across to my selected organization nodes. So what's going to happen with this, with these being parent nodes, they're actually going to pull across all these child nodes too. I'm happy with that, so I'll click OK. So that's commerce channels complete. I'm going to collapse that. And now we're finally on to adding the actual products. So let's add line. I'm looking to add all the items from Team Sports. So let's have a look here. Here we go, Team Sports. And I'm going to add that. And that being the parent category, it will include everything within Team Sports, all those items. And you'll see the line type is by default set to include. There's include and exclude options, it's set to include. Now let's say I want to exclude one particular product from this Team Sports category. I'm going to click Add Line, and again I'm going to be going to Team Sports, and I need to find the item I want to exclude, and I know it's within baseball. So I'll select that and click OK. And I'm going to go to this product box now here. And I know the one I want to exclude is adult baseball infield glove. So I'll select that and I'm going to change the line type to exclude. I don't want that to be included in my product assortment. So I'm happy with this. I'm going to save it and I'd say it's ready to be published. So I'm going to click this publishing button up the top. Publish. It's checking, are you sure you would like to publish this assortment? And I'll say yes. And you'll see a little notification. The retail assortments job has been scheduled for this assortment and the status has changed to published, and we're done.
This takes us to the second lesson of Module 4, where we are taking a look at some of the features within Dynamics 365 Commerce relating to personalized shopping experiences, business-to-business capabilities, loyalty and clienteling concepts, as well as learning about Dynamics 365 fraud protection. Let's get started with business-to-business capabilities. So when we talk about business to business, we're talking about scenarios where your business will be selling products to other businesses, such as distributors or manufacturers. For example, if you have a fashion business where you make and sell clothes, it's likely you will have stockists like department stores or boutique shops that sell your clothes too. And we know that selling to a customer is very different from selling to a business. A business, in the case of a department store or boutique shop selling your clothing line, will be paying a different negotiated price for the products, as they need to be able to resell and make a profit. And you might have negotiated a different price with one business compared to another business. This is where the Commerce app has the capabilities to handle these unique requirements. You would firstly set up business partner onboarding and have an approval process for them to become a stockist. Then you can specify certain individuals that are allowed to place orders. And when it's time to order, they will view the product catalogue showing the negotiated prices against products. You can also implement quantity thresholds like an order minimum or maximum, and you also have the added benefit that this integrates with Dynamics 365 sales too. So there is plenty in there to help make this process as efficient as possible for your business, but also enhance the experience for your business partners too. Next, let's take a look at the loyalty programs and clienteling capabilities. Starting with loyalty programs, these are a fantastic way to attract customers and encourage repeat business. The Commerce app in Dynamics 365 allows you to set up these programs where you define the redemption rules in terms of the process to earn loyalty points, track participation in the program, have different loyalty program tiers, and even be able to issue loyalty cards which can be linked to customer records. There is also the functionality to be able to transfer reward balances between friends and family too. You will note when you look at the slide there is a diagram on the left showing that there are certain prerequisites to satisfy before you set up the loyalty program. You need to first set up discounts and price groups. Then separately, you set up the channels and the loyalty payment method. And then from there, you can proceed with setting up loyalty programs, then loyalty schemes and loyalty cards if you choose as well. Now, moving on from loyalty programs, we see clienteling on the right of this slide. The whole purpose of clienteling is that it empowers sales staff to become entrusted advisors and build relationships with customers by leveraging data about a customer's preferences, behaviour and purchases. It's tracking customers' purchase history across multiple channels, be it in an online shop or the physical shop. It's identifying their shopping preferences as well as offering targeted product recommendations based on both machine learning and artificial intelligence capabilities. So next time you're in the store standing at the register and they've just asked your details to look you up and they make an eerily accurate product suggestion, it might be that they're using clienteling in the Commerce app. Now, we also have a few more in-store customer experience features to go through. Client Book is a popular feature with retailers, particularly with high-end specialty retailers who are trying to form long-term relationships with their key customers. How it works is that you're able to set up customer cards and you can choose which fields you want to add, and they could be things like birthdays, preferred brands, or dislikes. If it were a jewellery shop, they might record that a customer only likes yellow gold jewellery, so that sales associates automatically focus on showing that type of jewellery as opposed to showing rose gold pieces. Next, we have Activity and Note feature, which tracks the buying patterns of the customer and can reveal certain preferences to help the sales associate to personalise the shopping experience. Finally, there is the ability to integrate with Dynamics 365 Customer Insights, and this can calculate something called churn possibility, which is a metric that uses machine learning to calculate the risk of losing a customer and allow you to determine the next best action. So you might set this up to do more targeted marketing for that specific customer. The final feature we will discuss in the Commerce module is Dynamics 365 Fraud Protection. You'll notice in the middle of this slide, moving your eyes from left to right, we have purchase protection, account protection, and loss prevention. Purchase protection is an interesting part of this. And how it works is that it actually boosts the acceptance rate of e-commerce transactions by using tools to ensure that legitimate transactions are not falsely categorized as fraud, also known as false positives. So doing this means that revenue opportunity is more accurately balanced against the risk of fraud loss. In the middle, we have account protection, and a big part of this is preventing the use of fake accounts. You know how a lot of e-commerce stores have a discount if you sign up or you're a new customer, like 10% off? Well, some shoppers create multiple accounts with different email addresses to claim this discount. And this sort of discount fraud is prevented with this tool. Also, account takeover and fraudulent account access is prevented too. Lastly, we have loss prevention, and this involves identifying anomalies and potential fraud across all channels, which enables staff to quickly take action to mitigate losses. So how it works is that AI models are looking through historical data to check if there's anomalies. If there are outliers detected in the report, they will be ranked and scored, and management can decide whether to investigate. I hope you enjoyed learning about the Commerce app in Dynamics 365. Certainly some very cool features to help businesses be their most efficient best. I think we should take a little break, around 10 minutes to recharge, and I will see you all back here shortly. Welcome back from the break. We are almost done with our second session in this virtual training day. And there is a light at the end of the tunnel. We only have 2 little modules left to go. Module 5 is all about the human resource capabilities inside of Dynamics 365. Now let me tell you, there is a lot going on in the HR world. It's about managing compensation, benefits, employee performance, and ensuring that the organisation's programs meet changing global regulations and compliance needs. So the question is, how does human resources in Dynamics 365 fit into the picture, and how does it help? Well, I'll tell you. What it does is it provides a complete solution for human resource management professionals. It can help with the entire employee lifecycle, from recruiting, employee administration to talent management. It helps your HR professionals to be more strategic. It's providing them with the workforce insights that they need to build better organisation structures, and they can build better compensation plans too. It can also help them with managing tasks like leave of absence, as well as any type of compliance needs. Plus, your employees and managers have self-service portals for things like performance and time off. So it's full of features. And I want to start off by diving into some of the core capabilities and getting across how it works. So let's begin by understanding what a worker is in Dynamics 365 Human Resources. You can probably guess it's someone who works for the organisation, and you would be right. So for each worker that you set up in the Human Resources app, you can maintain information around their basic details like name, contact information, emergency contact, as well as employment details, absence they've had. So you get the general idea. It's a record of that worker. You can also record what worker type they are, be it employee or contractor. And we think of worker as like a key entity in the system, and it's used by other apps like supply chain management through modules like production, sales, and marketing. An example of this would be a worker that is a sales representative having their commissions calculated via the sales module. Workers can also be assigned something called a position, and a position is an individual instance of a job, and also it exists within a department too. I want to give you an example to explain what I mean. Let's take the department sales. Within the sales department, you have 3 positions: Sales Manager East, another position for Sales Manager West, and another position for Sales Manager Central. The associated job for all 3 positions is the same. It's Sales Manager. And if the position for Sales Manager West was vacant and a worker was assigned to it, it would now be filled as it's a single instance of a job and no extra workers would be assigned to it, unless, of course, down the track it was vacated. However, one worker can be assigned to multiple positions. It's also worth noting that a position is an element in the organisation hierarchy. When a worker is assigned to a position that reports to another position, a reporting relationship is automatically created between the workers who are assigned to those 2 positions. Now, let's talk about compensation and benefits within human resources in Dynamics 365. Many organisations have benefit programs for their employees in one form or another. They might have medical and dental benefits, car allowance, recreation programs, or even adoption assistance as examples. And with different benefits, you have a variety of structures, and this can actually be pretty complex at times, which is why benefits management can be a very handy tool. The 3 steps to set it up are very briefly touched on in the slide. The first step you can see is Enable Benefits Management. So you go to the System Administration, click the Feature Management tile, and then select Enable against it. Once that's set up, you can proceed to the second step, which involves setting up required employee information. It's essential that the employees meet a few conditions in the system, being they are assigned to a position, that they are enrolled in a fixed compensation plan, which is basically their salary or wages, and this must happen on their start date. Another condition is that a benefit pay frequency must be selected in the employment details on the worker form. Once the employee has met these preconditions, they're eligible to be enrolled in a benefits plan. The third step is to configure benefits management in terms of creating the individual benefits plans. A HR manager will usually be tasked with doing this, and they will need to fill in the fields like plan type, for example, dental, the payment frequency, tier rates, benefit periods, and eligibility rules, and there are other fields too. Once complete, then you can process employees to determine their eligibility, or you can even have employees themselves select plans via employee self-service. So plenty of options to make this process as efficient as possible. Now, from talking about benefits management, let's switch gears a little and talk about compliance, because that is a huge part of a HR team's responsibilities. Did you know that there are over 220 updates from over 1,000 different regulatory bodies published every single day? So if you're curious what that looks like, that's one every 6.5 minutes. So how on earth are they meant to keep up with it? Well, one of the ways is using the Compliance Manager, and it's designed in a way to help simplify and still meet all the policy and regulatory compliance things that are out there. But more importantly, it's going to help reduce your company's risks. And the way that works is it's using continuous assessments, so it's automatically detecting and monitoring your system settings. And to help you understand how you're going in the form of a metric, you can take a look at the compliance score that is provided. You'll be able to see it within the red box in the screenshot on the slide. Now, let's say you're not really happy. You can choose to take a look at the listed improvement actions. And these are suggestions to improve your compliance posture. And they have step-by-step instructions on how to do it. So implementing these will improve your compliance posture, and it will be reflected in an improvement in your compliance score too. So that score is like really a good measure of how you're going from a compliance standpoint. Now let's take a look at performance management capabilities. So chances are, if you have worked in a job for a little while, you will have been involved in a performance review at some point. And this could be a one-on-one discussion, super informal, or it might be a simple review focusing on a period of time, like 3 monthly. Or it might be a more formal review which involves conversations around goals and the measurements involved. Now, if you have one of these super formal reviews coming up and you need to present all you have achieved and delivered over a certain period of time, it can be hard to remember every little thing that you have done. And what is great is that the Human Resources app actually includes lots of features that you can create over time to build out your story of what you're achieving so that your manager is across what you're doing and you can give justice to the work you have done when it comes time for a performance review. And as an employee, my favorite tool for this is the goals feature. And these goals can be created by either the employee or the manager for the employee. You can create any number of them. They can span different periods of time. They can be simple or complex, and they often have measurable results. You can even choose to mark it as a stretch goal or add an attachment when you achieve that goal. And I'll add here a great one would be when you get your MB-920 certification, you can add it right in there. And when it comes time to have your performance review, that employee or manager can seamlessly pull those goals into the review and make comments on them. This is the same for those attachments, performance journals, any measurements as well as sign-offs can be added into the review too. Another feature in that we have is this send feedback tool, where you can provide feedback to another employee and the tool sends the message to the employee who is receiving the feedback, that employee's manager, the employee who is sending the feedback, and the employee's manager receive a copy. So that's a cool feature to finish the lesson with. Now we have covered lesson 1, it's time for our second lesson. So we can learn about self-service, leave and absences, training and certification, and LinkedIn Talent Hub. So let's start off with self-service. And self-service is pretty great, right? Now, this is my opinion as an end user. I just way prefer self-service than having to email or call a number. It's just great to have to get something actioned right on the spot or quickly find out some information rather than having to wait for someone to get back to me. From the other end, being the organisation standpoint, they love it too. It really cuts down on the administrative overhead and saves a lot of time and money ultimately. So let's look at exactly what self-service features are on offer in the Human Resources module. And we can get a pretty good idea by looking at this screenshot in the slide. We can see on the whole, it's pretty informative. They're able to see information regarding their compensation, time off balances by category like sick, vacation, and PTO for personal time off. It's showing their next registered course, their performance goals, which ties us back to what we were discussing earlier. So that's what they can view. What about things they're able to action? They can register for upcoming courses, add or remove certificates, add or update skills, and sign up for benefits. They can create performance journal entries to use on performance goals and reviews, and also submit time off requests too. These self-service capabilities just mean that the volume of emails and tickets raised with HR is drastically reduced and can be a real lifesaver for companies. And continuing on with this theme, let's take a closer look at leave and absence capabilities. While the employees can go see the employee self-service workspace to submit their time off entry, and it's very straightforward, the HR team knows that there needs to be a little bit of configuration and thought put into how this is all set up before this can happen. They must first set up leave and absence parameters. Then second, create a working time calendar. And then finally, create a leave request flow. Once that's set up, they will create leave plans so that the workers can then be enrolled into that plan. Easy, right? Then the process is generally managed by self-service. From a management perspective, they're able to
因为光每一处都在闪耀，全新升级 Misty 防晒家族。
Let's now talk about employee development. We spoke earlier about performance reviews, setting up goals, and tracking feedback to ensure that employees can develop in their roles and beyond their roles. But we also know that ongoing training and certification is important for developing employees too. And there are some great features in the Human Resources module to help with this. And what specifically comes to mind is the fact that you can set up training courses in the system. Typically, the HR team will be responsible for the setup. They will set prerequisites, course tasks, course statuses can be tracked, and I'm not going to go through every detail, but it's quite full-featured. And there's so many different uses. I mean, you could use it for compliance-based training or training on a particular product. So many ways you could leverage this to benefit your organization. But there is one last section I want to talk about inside of Dynamics 365 Human Resources, and that's the link between it and LinkedIn. Now, I want to specifically discuss how the applicant tracking system called LinkedIn Talent Hub can help you with your recruitment process. Applicant Tracking Systems, or ATS, helps companies streamline their end-to-end hiring and recruitment process. And an ATS can handle everything from candidate screening to interview scheduling, reference checks, and sending out new hire documentation. But once a candidate is hired, they need to be entered into the HR system. However, instead of having to manually create the new employee in Dynamics, you can integrate Talent Hub with Dynamics 365. And by integrating Microsoft Dynamics 365 Human Resources with LinkedIn Talent Hub, you can easily create employee records in Human Resources for those applicants who have been hired for a position. So no matter really what stage your staff and your organization are at with Dynamics 365 Human Resources, there is a way to support them from hiring and LinkedIn Talent Hub, Talent Manager, and self-service. Everything is in Dynamics 365 Human Resources. And this is a super light introduction into the capabilities. My recommendation to you is if you're interested in learning more, check out the summary pages and learn path for this module at aka.ms/MB-920. There are some really great links to additional documentation and some really cool videos showing you how these features work. However, if you don't plan on working with these tools yourself and you're just taking the MB-920 exam, just be aware of the tools that are available for each process. Now it's time for a break. Enjoy 10 minutes to yourself and I will see you again shortly. The whole course. Our sixth and final module is focusing on the project operations module within Dynamics 365. And as the name of this module would suggest, we are focusing on projects and specifically project-based businesses. These are different to the product-based and service-based businesses I discussed in the earlier modules. So let me share an example with you to explain the difference. If we were to talk about a web design business, they could choose to sell website templates and do zero customization, just sell that template as a product as is, and that would be a product-based business. A service-based web design business might focus on providing a specific service or services, like integrating existing websites with buy now, pay later platforms. And a project-based business for a web design business would be focusing on producing a solution so it could look like them designing the whole website, how it would look, the development of it, hosting, search engine optimization techniques, you name it. And so we say a project-based business is really about arriving at a particular solution. And it has a lot of moving parts. And the key idea I'm trying to push here is that there is a lot of management involved. Because there's so many components to manage, these businesses enjoy the fact that with Dynamics 365, they're able to connect sales, resourcing, project management, and finance teams into a single application, ultimately allowing them to accelerate project delivery and maximize profitability. So let's have a closer look now at these features and dive into the content. Firstly, we say that leaders are empowered to make better decisions. They're able to take advantage of AI-driven insights that are based on data from all teams and processes which ultimately reflect how the project is trending to allow leaders to take corrective action in a timely way where required. We also say that the sales process is enhanced as you can have flexible billing models for different clients, standardized templates to quickly develop estimates, schedules and monetary values for a quote, as well as a unified sales dashboard to have your customer data in a single view. There's also resourcing features to ensure the right people with the right skills are aligned to the right projects. There are also project management tools like dashboards, task management, scheduling, interactive Gantt charts, and work breakdown structures, which you might already be familiar with if you've used Microsoft Project. It also integrates with Microsoft Teams to enhance collaboration and productivity amongst team members. And finally, we have project accounting, which is simplified with many features, including enhanced visibility into key business health metrics. So that's a brief rundown of the features. Now let's have a think about how these features would apply to common types of projects you may have heard of. The examples on the slide are a call center, consulting, marketing, and manufacturing. I think it would be fair to say that across all 4 examples, despite being across totally different industries, they would all involve resources, schedules, and costs, as well as project management and accounting functionality that would help with the planning, execution, and analysis of the projects. So this functionality we're talking about in this module, and this course generally, is useful across so many different industries. Now, let's talk about what happens when you want to set up a project in Dynamics 365 Project Operations. You create a new project to start with, and then you will need to select a project type. It supports 6 different project types, and each project type is set up differently for the cost and revenue components. Now, the project type that you choose depends on the purpose of the project. So the first most common type is going to be time and material. All the time, the cost, expenses, items, fees, basically anything that's booked against the project is going to be billed directly back to the customer. Time and material projects are generally used for larger projects when you don't have a firmly defined scope, and it gives you a little bit more flexibility with billing and also timing. An example of this might be a construction project, maybe doing a house renovation. They're billing the cost of the labour, the materials and other fees directly back to the customer. Next, what we have is fixed price projects. These are usually used for things like government projects, where there is a tightly defined statement of work and they're typically invoiced according to a billing schedule that is based on a project contract. If you're following along on the slide, you will see we're up to the 3rd type, being investment. And these are the long-term projects that are not expected to produce immediate earnings. So here you're only recording cost for items, hours, and expenses. Then we have cost projects, which are typically used to track internal projects. And an interesting point about these is that project transactions are posted only to profit and loss accounts and cannot be capitalized to balance sheet accounts. Then we have the internal project type, which is used for managing resource consumption internally within your organization. And then there's time projects, which are associated with non-chargeable and non-productive activities like tracking sick time for workers. These transactions are not posted to the ledger, but are actually instead included in worker utilisation reports. Now, when we have a project, we have 4 different phases, and you might have heard of this referenced as something called the project lifecycle. We have the sales phase, the initiation phase, execution phase, and finally, the analysis phase. So let's have a chat about what this looks like in real life, starting at the beginning with the sales phase. This is where you are providing a quote for the items or the services that your organisation is going to provide. And I want to point out here that it's entirely possible that the quote provided will be different from the final invoice. There could be changes to the scope, or maybe there's surcharges added, and this is okay. The quote that is provided is a non-binding offer, meaning that it's not legally enforceable. Then we move along to the next stage, which is the initiation phase. And it's assumed at this point that the sales cycle is complete and the customer has accepted the contract. In this phase, your project managers are defining a roadmap, trying to define what successful completion of the project will entail. And honestly, this is probably one of the most time-consuming phases. Your project managers are going to be breaking up the project into smaller, more manageable tasks. And they're going to then be building out the teams and assigning all the different roles and responsibilities. They're going to have a project timeline and basically determine all the project goals. And it's arguably the most important step, because if you don't have the proper initiation measures, the projects are likely to fail or go off track. But once you have your plan in place, you are ready to move on to the third step, which is execution. In this phase, the plan that you developed is put into action. So once the workflow has been established, your project managers are going to basically direct the execution. They're going to make sure that the project is moving on track, holding things like status check meetings, or they may make changes to the timelines. According to different requirements, they're going to be communicating with everyone involved in the project too. So this could include parties like other team members or the stakeholders. Now, the execution phase is usually the busiest of all the different life cycle phases, because this is where the work is getting done. The fourth and final step, the analysis phase, involves project managers finalizing everything and then handing over the project deliverables to the client or the stakeholder. They're going to prepare a thorough report to review all the work that was done. And then any resources that were brought in to work on it are going to be released. The contracts are going to be closed out. The project managers are going to work with the back office to review things like project documentation and ensure that everyone that was involved is receiving what they were promised. So everyone's getting paid. Another feature of the Project Operations app that I want to take you through is the project contract capabilities. And the benefit here is that you can configure a variety of billing rules in Dynamics 365 based on those contractual requirements. So it could be that there's a rule based on units of delivery, so that a customer is invoiced based on when a unit of delivery is completed, and the definition of what a unit of delivery constitutes will be set out in the contract. Or you might like to have a milestone-based rule, where a customer is invoiced for the full amount of a project once that milestone has been achieved. Another option is to have a rule based on progress, so that you invoice a customer once a specific percentage of a project is complete. So quite a few different options, and as you can see on the left of the slide, you can integrate priority settings and also have the ability to allocate only part of a transaction to be processed under a Rule 2. Now, I'll just briefly touch on the project pricing capabilities. So what you can do is you can set up standard sales and cost prices for our transactions in Dynamics 365. And these projects can be set up by project category, by worker number, by project number, by category, transaction date, or any combination of the options I just mentioned. So that's a wrap on Lesson 1, and we have covered quite a bit already. We looked at the project life cycle, the 6 different project types, as well as project contract and pricing features. Let's now take a look at our second and final lesson for this module, where we will be exploring the project planning and the execution capabilities within Dynamics 365. Now, let's talk about project planning. Having a good project plan is vital, and it ultimately ensures the success of the project. It drives timely deliveries, defines the milestone-based critical functions for the different phases of the project. And we say that a project plan tracks 3 major derivatives of a project: scope, cost, and resources. For each of these 3 factors, the Project Operations app has tools and features available to help. So starting with the project scope. This is where the boundaries of the project are defined, and the sales process is a huge part of this. There is a lead record that is used to track the sales process, and qualifying leads are tracked as opportunities. And these opportunities include artifacts like probability, sales stage, stakeholders, and sales team, which are very useful in this early stage to track information around. Then we have the second factor, which is cost. And Project Operations app provides a lot of functionality around being able to do things like create sophisticated price lists and flexibility to do things like define expenses as a transaction category. The third factor is project resources. And what you can do here is align the project schedule assignments with resource bookings. You can form project teams by booking available and qualified resources, and also reconcile differences in bookings and assignments. Now, that's project planning. I want to take you through the specifics around schedule management. And if you've ever had to create a schedule, you know it's an incredibly daunting task. There are so many different factors to take on board. So the schedule management tool makes life a lot easier in terms of reviewing workers' availability, their utilization, and you can even base it off attributes like their skills and experience. We also have the resource management feature, which allows you to define roles that are treated as temporary resources that can be reserved for a specific engagement or part of an engagement. So here you might define roles that have the required competencies so that it is easy to match to resources, as an example. So there are plenty of features in here that project managers can leverage to make their lives a lot easier. But on that note, we have finished our final module. And what I will say is that we have covered so much in this course over these past 2 sessions. And to be honest, we've only been skimming the surface, with this being a fundamentals level course. So if you are interested in learning more and learning these features at a more advanced level, I would recommend checking out the Functional Consultant certification courses. But if you want to nail down those basics first, my advice is to get hands-on in the labs that are available in the Microsoft LearnPath at aka.ms/MB-920. Plus, everything we covered today, all 6 modules, are available at that same link, as well as some great videos too. So you will have a whole swag of resources you can lean on after these sessions. I hope you found that these sessions were helpful and you're able to take this new information to help you back in your daily job. Since you've already dedicated the time to attending both sessions for this class, I'd highly recommend that you take a stab at the MB-920 exam. It covers all the same information that we reviewed over the past 2 sessions. And since it's a fundamentals course, you really only need to focus on identifying and describing the different components of the finance and operations apps inside of Dynamics 365. And in my opinion, between this course and the learning path, you have everything you need to successfully pass the exam. Now, if you're wondering about the exam itself, you can expect to have around 40 questions, give or take. And in order to pass, you're going to need to score a minimum of 700 out of 1,000 points. Now, the way that you earn points is by answering questions correctly. So you do not lose points for incorrect answers. So my best piece of advice for you is, if you're taking the exam, is to make sure that you are reading the question all the way through and reading it very carefully, okay? Read all your answers before choosing. And if you don't know the answer, just take your best guess. You're not going to lose any points. And as far as the time goes, you have 45 minutes to take the exam itself. So you don't really need to rush through. There are no labs on the exam, and all the questions are going to be focused around the concepts we discussed. But since it's fundamentals, everything is super high level, and I think that's pretty much everything you need to know about the exam. Make sure you review any areas that you might be unsure about within the Learn Path, and I'll remind you again where that is at aka.ms/MB-920. Once you pass that exam, make sure you share that shiny new badge on your LinkedIn page so we can all celebrate with you. Good luck on your exam if you're planning on taking it, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Hopefully we'll be celebrating your new badge or seeing you in another class soon. Bye everyone.